Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at another one of the updates in the Season 18 balance patch for Go Battle League, and that is the buff to Water Pulse on Shadow Sealeo. I was lucky enough some years back to get the rank 1 Shadow Sealeo, and I've had it built ever since. And now Water Pulse not only does 10 more damage, but it's 5 energy cheaper, so I'm excited to see if Water Pulse is going to be able to bring Shadow Sealeo to meta relevance, and what better way to test it than to run the rank 1 Shadow. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's check out the newly buffed Shadow Sealeo in the Open Great League. Hopping to the first match, picking up a terrible lead Lurantis into Shadow Dragonair. I save switch into Lickitung, my opponent choosing to stay in this matchup, which honestly is terrific news for me. I would much rather take damage on the Lickitung than on my very glassy Lurantis. Opponent will fire off a Body Slam of their own. They now choose to send in Wigglytuff. I'm a bit surprised they didn't just send in Wigglytuff right away, as then they wouldn't have had to go down a shield protecting their Dragonair. I'm only making it to one move, so I will go for the Power Whip, and then I can send back in Lurantis. Lurantis, unfortunately, will have to respect this Icy Wind, as Icy Wind would hit for a ton of damage. These charms really adding up, Lurantis continuing to farm up so much energy and firing off the Leaf Blade. I have really been liking running various anti-water Pokemon this season. I did run the Shadow Magnezone in a previous video, and now with the Lurantis, it feels like it's just worked out very, very nicely. In comes the Shadow Dragonair as I end up sending in the Sealeo. Sealeo will commit the shield on the Body Slam and look for the full farm down here. Sealeo gets the farm down. Opponent left with the Wigglytuff on 1 HP, but it left with a move. Oh, that's not good. Disarming Voice gets me low. Sealeo gets the farm down in the back. It's going to be a Whizcatch, and this is going to be the first test of the new damage on Water Pulse. Shadow Water Pulse does some pretty solid damage to that Whizcatch. Going for Water Pulse number 2 here. This Water Pulse is going to connect, getting Whizcatch deep into the red. Whizcatch on 1 HP fires off a last second charge attack. They are not at the back-to-back here, so I can just catch on to Lurantis, farm down with the Shadow Sealeo, and take the win. Moving into the next match, we see Lurantis into another Shadow Dragonair. Oh man, that is really unfortunate. Save switch into the Lickitung. Opponent will be able to outpace by 1 turn due to my switch and fire off the Body Slam. Body Slam is going to connect. I continue to farm up with the Lickitung. They're staying in. This is great news for me. Body Slam will do a lot of damage to my opponent. The Glassy Dragonair is going to commit a shield, and now I have a choice to make. I decide, you know what, I really don't want to shield Lickitung. Instead, I'm just going to let it go and send in the Shadow Sealeo. Shadow Sealeo gets the farm down just as the opponent makes it to their move. In the back, they have a Skeledirge, and if this is their best response, they're in trouble. Buffed Water Pulse nearly picks up the 1-hit KO. I can even make it to a Body Slam right before they make it to their charge attack. This Body Slam is going to force the final shield. They've got to be so weak in the back. My guess is probably a Gligar. So I will commit the shield, get the farm down, and I'll never know what they had because the opponent immediately resigns the match. Lurantis cannot catch a break with the leads. 3rd negative lead in a row as I lead into Mantine. I save switch into the Lickitung. Opponent is going to respond with the Hakamo-o, and I'm going to fire off the Body Slam. Hakamo-o, of course. Break now does a guaranteed defense drop, but the good news for me is that it doesn't do a lot of damage. So up energy, and in the zeros, I should be able to force a shield as the Lickitung. Lickitung continuing to farm, going for the Body Slam. This should just about knock out. The opponent is going to have to commit a shield here, and they do. Continuing to farm up with the Lickitung. Opponent is forced to fire off some energy. I really don't want to try and Fury Cutter down a Pokemon that has the fighting subtyping, so instead, I'm just going to get farm on the Shadow Sealeo. Opponent sends in the Mantine, and this gives me hope. If they're sending in the Mantine, my hope is that they are pretty weak to Sealeo overall. So I am going to invest 1 shield and continue to farm. In the back, oh no, it's a Gallade. Gallade is just so deadly with how fast it gets 2 charge attacks. I'm going to switch into Lurantis. Lurantis going for the Leaf Blade, but losing charge attack priority. That's really unfortunate. The close combat, oh my goodness, that damage. Lurantis barely able to hang on. I go for the undercharge, but that's not nearly enough of an undercharge. In comes the Mantine, and now it's going to be a race. I need 3 body slams before they get 2 aerial aces. I have a lot of stored energy. This is going to be close. Farming up with the Sealeo. Sealeo losing charge attack priority. Sealeo doesn't have the highest attack stat ever. Mantine, aerial ace will connect. It all comes down to this. Did they have the back-to-back moves loaded? If they did, they win. Mantine does not have the move. Shadow Sealeo with the body slam spam takes down the Mantine and secures the win. We see a slightly better lead in the next match, Lurantis into Dugong. I do have the pacing advantage here, but man, these ice shards add up. Opponent save switches into Annihilate. Arguably, I should have thrown the Leaf Blade before switching there, as that would have made this matchup a lot more convincing in favor of the Lickitung, as either I have a massive health advantage or I'm at a shield advantage. Whereas now, if my opponent gets the shield call right and shields the Power Whip, they can just farm me down, and that's exactly what they're going to do. That's really unfortunate. Lickitung not going to make it to the Body Slam. I do win CMP here with Lurantis, but my opponent is very incentivized to just shield this and then get both my shields back with 2 ice punches. And that's exactly what they're going to do. So we go from both my shields in play to suddenly no shields in play. The Dugong does have some energy, but they do not have a move banked, and there it is, right on cue. In comes the Dugong. I'll fire up the superpower and then look to immediately switch out as I'm debuffed. In comes the Shadow Sealeo, and it looks like we were able to catch the Icy Wind where it is double resisted. I'm going to farm up, go for 6 Powder Snows, and go for the Body Slam on the CMP tie to their next move. This Body Slam is debuffed, but it will still be enough to knock out. Back in comes the Annihilate. I'm farming up. I'm making it to the Water Pulse. Water Pulse will easily be enough to pick up the KO. I am still debuffed, but I still have a decent amount of health. But in the back, it's Gallade, and I think this is probably going to be a loss. The Body Slam doesn't do a whole lot. I farm up to the back-to-back, and I catch the Leaf Blade. Wait, maybe there's a chance. The Leaf Blade's not going to KO. I have to make it to a Leaf Blade of my own, but I do not get there. And unfortunately, I'm going to lose. Gallade is just such a scary Pokemon, man. And in the zeros, I get the catch, but unfortunately, I just didn't have enough health remaining. We see an amazing lead in the next match. Lurantis into Lantern. Opponent safe switches into Sableye. Sableye just cannot compete with the pacing of Lurantis. Lurantis gonna fire off the Leaf Blade. That does very nice damage, and in comes Lickitung. Lickitung, I can basically just use as a damage sponge. The Shadow Sealeo and the Lurantis can't take hits nearly as well as the Lickitung can, so I can just use the Lickitung to absorb the return, and then I actually fire off the Body Slam just before they're able to make it to the foul play, and that will be able to pick up the knockout. I'm not honestly expecting them to send in Lantern here, but they end up doing it anyway. So I can guarantee a shield or some very nice damage with the Power Whip. Very okay with me. Opponent shielding the Lantern, so they clearly see value in the Lantern. Lantern is completely walled by Lurantis, but they're saying, you know what? Lurantis not the tankiest Pokemon around. In the back, they have Goodra, and I get to respond with the Shadow Sealeo. Unfortunately, not a spot where I can show off the new Water Pulse, but I'll just go for the Body Slam. His Body Slam will do very nice damage. They built to the Power Whip. I will respect it. And they do not bait. That's a big shield. I'm now going to try for the farm down. Come on, Sealeo. Sealeo gets the farm down. They still have a Lantern, but I have so much energy on this Sealeo. Let's let Sealeo cook. Sealeo going to fire off Body Slam after Body Slam. I'm at 2 more Body Slams now. The opponent is going to have to shield one of these, or they're just getting knocked out. And I still have a very healthy Lurantis going for yet another Body Slam. At this point, the opponent realizes there is no win con, and they just let the Body Slam go. Moving into the next match, we are back to the Nightmare leads, leading into a Gligar, the safe switch into the Lickitung, but the opponent has no response to a Lickitung. They send in Shadow Feraligatr. I like that when I said they had no response to a Lickitung, the Feraligatr shook its head as well, like agreeing with me, like, you're right, I have no response to a Lickitung. I'm ending up going for the Body Slam. Since the Shadow Feraligatr, I believe I win the 2 straight Body Slams, so I don't really see the need to go for the Power Whip. I will still build up to a potential Power Whip to try and pressure a shield from the opponent, but I should still be in a pretty good spot. I continue to farm up. I go for the Body Slam. I end up losing charge attack priority. I was trying to throw one turn before. Unfortunately, that was not to be, but the good news is either way, this is still not going to be enough to KO, so they would have got their move anyway, and I'm going to get a nice farm down. And with switch advantage, I should be in a nice spot. They send in Greninja, and they have to Hydro Cannon here. If they Night Slash, I think I'm making the Power Whip. They Night Slash. Oh no, trainer, I make the Power Whip. I think this just straight up KOs. The Power Whip KOs. In comes the Gligar. I send in the Shadow Sealeo, and Gligar will immediately resign the match. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Lurantis versus Registeel. Honestly, normally I wouldn't consider this a decent lead, but considering the horrible, horrible leads we have seen, I will take Registeel. At least I can hit it for super effective damage. That superpower does so much damage. I'm debuffed, so I'm going to be shielding everything on the Lurantis. Lurantis looking to overfarm a ton. I'm very close to the back-to-back superpowers here. Going for superpower number 2. Opponent commits the shield. I'm able to make it to superpower number 3. This is double debuffed. Is it going to be enough to knock out? It still is. Lurantis putting in a ton of work. In comes Hakamo'o. And I'm just going to switch out into the Lickitung. This is not the most amazing matchup ever for the Lickitung, but I really didn't want to stay in with the heavily debuffed Lurantis. They go for the Brick Break, hitting for super effective damage, and of course, getting that guaranteed defense drop. I go for the Body Slam. The Body Slam will connect onto Hakamo'o. Hakamo'o firing off another charge attack. Is this going to be enough to KO? The Brick Break does not. I'm not sure if they undercharged there or if that's just how much Brick Break actually does. I haven't run the Hakamo'o, but we are able to get the farm down. And in the back, it is Cresselia. This would be a bit awkward if I just had the Shadow Sealeo left, but I still have the Lurantis. And Lurantis can apply some pretty consistent pressure with the Leaf Blade spam. Lurantis farming up. Ooh, a bit unfortunate timing there by me. The Leaf Blade is going to get shielded by my opponent. They're forced to throw energy, and from here, this should be a couple Powder Snows plus a Water Pulse range. They go for the Moonblast. That's perfectly okay for Shadow Sealeo. And no one move is going to KO, so I'm more than happy to let this through. My opponent goes for the Grass Knot. Shadow Sealeo does not care and makes it to the Water Pulse. And this is a situation where having that extra damage on Water Pulse is quite nice, as the Water Pulse is actually enough to KO Cresselia and take the win. Moving to the next match, leading Lurantis into Shadow Feraligatr. What a lead. They save switch into Annihilate. I don't have an amazing response to the Annihilate save switch, so I am going to be firing off this Leaf Blade. The Leaf Blade is going to connect. I send in the Lickitung, and as long as they're not running a weird moveset like Close Combat, I should be very okay to no shield here. So I'm going to no shield. It is going to be the Ice Punch, and I should be able to survive multiple Ice Punches. It'll be close, but I'm going to try and commit to the farm down. Lickitung trying for the farm down and gets the farm down, exiting with energy. So I will have a Power Whip to throw at the Feraligatr. Opponent, they don't send in the Feraligatr, they send in a Venusaur. So I'm happy that I checked the top right there to see what typing was being brought in, because throwing a Power Whip into a Venusaur, that would not have gone well whatsoever. This Body Slam is going to be getting the Venusaur quite low. At this point, I think I can just win the game with the Lurantis. So I'm just going to let this through. In hindsight, maybe not the greatest idea, but I was thinking, you know what? They can't farm me down. And then I remember, oh yeah, this is a Lurantis. Lurantis is very, very glassy. I might have just thrown by not shielding the Sealeo. Oh boy, this will be close. Lurantis very fast at generating energy, firing off the Leaf Blade, grabbing the shield from the opponent, getting to one more Leaf Blade. This will pick up the knockout. And now it's going to be a race. Neutral Fury Cutter versus Resisted Vine Whip. And Lurantis is barely able to get the farm down and take that game. Moving to the next match, Lurantis versus Cresselia. This is a very playable matchup for the Lurantis. Fury Cutter will consistently apply that fast attack pressure. The bit unfortunate thing is that even though you are hitting for super effective damage, the Fury Cutters don't add up a lot over time, just due to the fact that Fury Cutter does not do a lot of damage. My opponent is going to go for the Moonblast. I'm farming up a ton of energy with the Lurantis, and Lurantis is going to go for yet another Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is going to connect. I switch into the Lickitung as my opponent fires off their move. This works out great. I save the Lurantis for later. They go for the Moonblast. They send in a Shadow Machamp, and if they shield this move, I have immediately lost this game. The Body Slam is shielded because they will be able to fully farm me down. I'm not going to see their third Pokemon. Machamp is going to sweep me, and I resign the match. Hopping into the final match, same lead as last game. Looking for a bit of redemption here. Lurantis versus Cresselia. I wasn't in love with how I played out that first game, as you can see by the fact that Machamp got up a shield and just swept me, so I'm going to try and play it a little better this time. I do still shield up the first move, but I think I do want to try and keep Lickitung more healthy, as a healthier Lickitung, even if they do have a fighter in the back, can still fight back pretty nicely. The Leaf Blade will connect, I go for yet another Leaf Blade. This, they will have to shield, or it will knock out, and they're going to do just that. You know what? Going down a shield last game did not go well for me, so I'm just going to let the Future Sight go. They send in the Lickitung, and on 1 HP, Lurantis refusing to get KO'd without making it to the Leaf Blade. And now we have the Battle of Lickitung, everyone's favorite matchup. In this instance, I'm already thinking about how the game is going to progress from here. I would love to get my opponent's Lickitung low and then go for a Powder Snow farm down with the Shadow Sealeo so I can leverage this mid game into an opportunity to get an energy advantage for the end game. I fire off the Body Slam. 2 Body Slams will not knock out. It looks like a Body Slam plus a Power Whip might put it into perfect farm down range, so I will go for the Power Whip. This is going to use basically all the energy that I had on the Lickitung, and then I can send in the Sealeo. Sealeo does get a Powder Snow head start, and it's a Shadow Feraligatr in the back. Feraligatr farms up to the Crunch, and I'm just going to let this go, as Crunch will do a solid amount of damage, but in case they get the debuff, I do have to be very, very mindful. Body Slam is going to connect. I'm farming up energy with the Sealeo, going for another Body Slam, continuing to apply pressure to the Feraligatr. Feraligatr commits the shield, and they get the farm down. Oh no! They send in Cresselia. They're unable to make it to a move, and I leave with the Body Slam. If the opponent had stayed in there, I don't know if I could farm down before they made it to the back-to-back, but they try and make it to a move on Cresselia. They are unsuccessful, and we are able to take that win. All in all, the buff to Water Pulse is a really nice addition for Shadow Sealeo. You get extra closing power from the damage boost, and also it's cheaper to get to. This is really nice, as Sealeo previously struggled a lot in situations where Body Slam was resisted, like going up against Ghost types. Sealeo normally did pretty terribly, just due to the fact that it was getting outpaced by everything. So extra damage plus cheaper move is a definite plus. However, as far as the Open Grade League goes, I still think Dugong reigns supreme as the King Ice type, and I don't think it's particularly close. Dugong's consistent ability to debuff opponents, and also that drill run coverage to help against Steel types and Lantern, just kind of makes it the king of the category. In the future, if there are Great League formats in which the Dugong is banned, I can see the Shadow Sealeo having a ton of play, but for the time being, I would say it's a very viable spice pick. I was able to have a very positive record with the team overall, although I would say I definitely do want to give some credit to Lurantis, because Lurantis was putting in a ton of work. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.